Hi, I'm Amy Bodkin, Special Needs Consultant at A Charlotte Mason Plenary. As a school psychologist, autistic adult, and special needs mom, one of the most frequently asked questions I get is how to deal with challenging behavior. So today, we're going to start a new series where we will be talking about little helpful tips you can use to make your days at home more peaceful and more pleasant. Dealing with challenging behaviors can be incredibly frustrating for everyone. But have you ever stopped to think about why that is? Of course, it can lead to ruined plans, destroyed possessions, screaming, tears, exhaustion, at the very least a headache for both the parent and the child. But what is the one root cause that causes all these different symptoms? I would like to suggest that it is miscommunication, because at its very root, that's all behavior is. It's communication. Charlotte Bronte wrote in Jane Eyre, "Children can feel, but they cannot analyze their feelings, and if analysis is partially effected in thought, they know not how to express the result of the process in words." There have been many experiences and feelings that I have had in my life, especially in childhood, where I was not able to explain them verbally for years and sometimes even decades later. Thus, it is solely on us as the parents to learn to be good readers of our children's behavior so that we can know what they're trying to tell us. The problem I find most often is that parents have been communicating verbally for so long that they've forgotten how to read behavior, or maybe they never even learned to, except for those small behaviors that we use with verbal communication. And so it's not the same as seeing. It's listening with your eyes. It's not seeing, but listening with your eyes. That takes a secondary process of understanding. But when we understand what our children are trying to tell us, we're able to respond back to them in a way that truly expresses how we feel about them. And it leads to a lot less frustration. In Mortimer Adler's book, How to Read a Book, he discusses how when you're going to read a book, you should read the title, look at the front part of the book, then go through the book and look for any important parts throughout, and then to read the last few pages of the book. It is the same way with reading behavior. We look at what happened before the behavior, which is what we call the antecedent in the psychology world. Then we look at the behavior itself, at what's going on around the behavior, the different details about the behavior. And then finally, we look at what happened after the behavior, the consequence in the psychology world. So that gives us basically our ABCs of behavior: antecedent, behavior, and consequence. But how does this look in real life? I've asked my kids if it'd be all right if I'd share a couple stories of how the ABCs have helped us learn to be better communicators, and they've agreed to let me share a couple of our favorites. My daughter, when she was about 18 months old, she brought me a block of cheese from the fridge right before we were about to walk out the door, and I told her, "No, we're not going to have that right now," and put it down, and then went to finish getting ready. And I did not know this at the time, but she didn't understand any verbal language at all. So she goes back into the kitchen, and she reaches up over her head into the drawer that has a lock on it, mind you. She pulls out the chef's knife that is in a case, gets it out of the case, and then comes running at me with the chef's knife. I managed to get it away from her, and our knives very quickly found a new home. But what I very quickly realized was that what she did before, going to get the cheese, informed me about what the purpose of her behavior was, what she was trying to communicate. She thought, "Oh, she just didn't understand. I'll go get the knife. That will help her." It was not that she's some kind of demon child with nefarious plans for that knife. And sometimes we can have very simple mistakes that we make about what our children's intentions are because we haven't carefully looked enough at what happened before. Now, with my son, he was an incredibly fussy baby, to the point that when we would sit at dinner, we would all wear earmuffs during dinner because he screamed all the time. In the car, at the table, it happened all the time. And, you know, he wasn't spitting up. His diapers looked normal. He was gaining weight. I mean, all those things you look for in babies, everything looked normal. And so we thought maybe, well, he's just got a really bad personality. But later on, we found out that he had some pretty major food issues. But we didn't figure that out until later, when the later consequences showed up of failure to thrive. And I felt horrible about that because this poor little person had been trying to tell me for so long that he didn't feel good. And I had just chalked it up to a personality thing. I think as parents, we all have these things that we feel bad about because it took us so long to figure out what our kids were trying to tell us because we couldn't figure it out from the antecedents. His babies eat so often that it was hard to define any kind of antecedent, anything that happened before to clue me into that's what it was, especially with his eating and spitting and all that stuff being so normal. It wasn't until we had the consequences that I truly realized it. But as Maya Angelou says, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. I think it's always very humbling as parents when we have to wait around for the consequences before we're able to figure out what our kid has been trying to tell us with this behavior. Whether it is an undiagnosed health condition or simply the frustration of being misunderstood. We don't want our children to suffer because we love them so much. Join me for the next episode in this series, and we're going to be learning some helpful tools that will help you set yourself up for success with being able to communicate better with your child behaviorally. Be sure to subscribe to the Plenary on YouTube and click the bell so that you'll be notified about when the next episode comes. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing about any challenging behaviors you're experiencing in your home and any questions that you might have for me. Thanks so much.